Hello everyone, and welcome to Season 2 of Escreal Let's Play Minecraft. I know it's a little early for Season 2 considering how we only relatively recently started Season 1, but with the release of Minecraft 1.9, things happened sort of outside of my control that we kind of need to embrace. So first off, let me apologize for the break between seasons, from our 1.8 Minecraft world to our 1.9, which I am standing in right now. However, here's what happened. The 1.9 Minecraft update came out with relatively little notice to me. At least, I wasn't in the know. I'm not cool enough. But with our 1.8 server going away, I didn't really feel all that comfortable starting any new builds that perhaps at any moment could kind of disappear and not get completed. So I put a hold on recording in the 1.8 world, planning on starting off in the 1.9, but once I got here, we had some problems. It took us a few weeks before the 1.9 server was stable enough that I felt that I could give you the quality that you deserved in my videos. Basically, we were having tons of lag problems. We had chunk loading issues where we couldn't really move until the problems had gone away. Lots of these little things that our amazing Minecraft server owner and admin took care of and has taken all of those problems away. We are good to go now. And so, in a stable, wonderful 1.9 world, I am proud to get started again. Yay! Now, just because I didn't feel completely comfortable recording didn't mean that I didn't feel comfortable playing. And so, what I thought I would do in this episode to kind of get us started, instead of what I did last season, which was truly from basically the get-go, get resources, get the basic building blocks, build a base, I figured this episode, what we would do is tour what we have so far, bring you up to speed, as it were. Now, one of the big differences between 1.9 and 1.8 as far as the Let's Play series is concerned is that in this season, I am playing significantly more collaboratively with several other Minecraft players. And so you'll probably either see them walking around in the backgrounds of these videos, or you'll definitely see their builds within town. But because of that, we are also going to be doing probably a much higher, grander scale of builds in this version, with this town, with these players. I'm super excited for what's going to happen in the series. Like, this season's going to be wicked awesome. I'm so excited. And so, as we go through the existing town, I'll point out what I've done, what they've done. Perhaps I'll kind of leave in the background for you to see and appreciate as little Easter eggs, perhaps, but I'm not going to highlight too much of any of their builds, at least not unless they say go for it. But we have enough of my builds to showcase that we can spend time on that. The other thing that I wanted to bring up was that because this is 1.9, we have access to a lot of new blocks, new resources, new mechanics, and so as much as I can, I'm going to try to take advantage of those, but you'll probably end up seeing a lot of familiar things in this build, and yeah, and it will be pretty excellent. There's also an homage to the original first base tour that I put together, and I'll point that out when we get there, but all in all, I think we're about ready to begin. So come with me and let's go explore this town. So I figured that a good way to do the base would be to do it sort of chronological in the way that it was constructed, just to kind of take you on the journey with me as I went through what we've done so far on this base. And so, let's begin. First off, for the big reveal of what we have so far, there it is. Lots of stuff. All right, so there's a lot of stuff going on here. Not all of it was from me, and not all of it is for me, but I will bring you through general tour, and then we'll go and focus as we get to each of the builds that I worked on. I'll give you more detail of what was done there. So first off, as you can tell, this is in the middle of an ocean. This was chosen for this spot by one of the other people that I am collaborating with, the mayor of this town perhaps, or the co-mayors, but either way, they selected this spot, and I'm fine with that. It does mean that we have to build the ground for every build that we end up doing, but it also means we don't have to clear stuff, and there's a lot less concern about mob spawning if we had any farms that worked with that mechanic. But anyway, so we have this kind of entryway. So this is the initial sort of hub spot where we started. There's a little bit of makeshift garden and some spare chests. But what I did, one of the first things that I did to kind of help us get going with our bookshelves and our enchanting station that you can see over there, was to start working on a sugarcane farm. Now, this design for the sugarcane farm is pretty common, I would say, as far as the mechanic for it, but the design itself has some kind of cool things going on with it. And so, and you can see it working as we go through this. One of the things that I wanted to do was, with this build, was kind of do a little bit of a tribute, an homage to one of my absolute favorite elements, visual elements, and mechanical elements of 1.8 of Minecraft since I was playing, which is the item elevator. Now, for those of you who follow Minecraft, know that the sort of classic item elevator that everyone was used to using broke. It was not even accidentally broke, it was intentionally broken with the 1.9 release. And so you couldn't do that anymore. Now, the community has already come up with some workarounds to kind of recreate it, which I love because this mechanic is just awesome. But at the time of this build, I didn't know about an alternative solution. So here is my tribute to the item elevator with a reverse item elevator design. So instead of having items go from the bottom up the glass to the top, items go from the top down through the glass into the chests. And there you can see an item fall. So the mechanic is that as the sugarcane get broken off of their stems, they flow down the water into a series of hoppers, water stream down there, which leads ultimately, as we continue going forward, to a series of hoppers down below. Now, all three sides use the same mechanic, so I'll show you kind of behind the scenes what that looks like. Now, I have a different set of boots that will make viewing what's going on behind the scenes on the outside a lot easier. And since it's a 1.9 feature, let's make sure we highlight that right now, because this is definitely one of the cooler Minecraft 1.9 enhancements, the Frost Walker boots. Ready for this? We'll go to a more visual. Look at this! Look! Oops. A little bit of lag. As you walk over water, it turns into ice. Now during the day, the ice ends up melting after a while. At night, the ice actually sticks around all night, so it can be kind of cool. Alright, so now that we're over here, let's show what we have going on. So we have the series of pistons at the second level of the sugarcane. On top of this smooth redstone, we have a line of smooth red sandstone. We have a line of redstone that comes over to this mechanic. So we have a furnace with an item inside of it, or series of items. With those items, we get, oops, not what I wanted to do. We get an output from our repeater. The repeater goes up, gets extended by, comparator gets the signal from the oven, from the furnace. It connects through the redstone to the repeater. The repeater then extends and powers all of these pistons, or rather it bud powers them. So they don't actually fire until they notice that a change has happened near them. A block was added, for instance, the growth of the sugarcane. Now, once that happens, all of the pistons fire, including the piston underneath the sand block. When the sand block gets extended, it cuts off the circuit, so these are now no longer bud powered, because this will no longer be powered. They'll all retract, including the sand block, and when that retracts, it repowers everything and queues it up for the next growth. So this infinitely awesome bud-powered farm gives us what we need in order to gather these resources. Now, with all three of these lines, I do have a kind of permanently on-off switch. So if you don't want to gather any more resources, for instance, your reeds are completely full, or you're having lag issues, you can flip the switch and it will activate all of the pistons, including the one with the sand, disconnecting it, and we won't get any growth, we won't get any bud-powered activities. But when we're ready, we just go back to having it down, things will grow, it will fire. So that pattern works on all three of these sides with a super... I wonder if I should put something there. With a super simple mechanic. Super scalable. If you wanted to have a ton of reeds, you could stack this vertically, many levels. In fact, I originally was planning on stacking it vertically until we ended up with this system getting a ton of sugarcane already. And so I was like, well, maybe I'll hold off on that. But now that we've kind of come across villagers throughout the world who will take sugarcane or paper for items, we may just come back and extend this. But either way, kind of love this farm. So the next thing that I wanted to do was find an automated way of getting food. And this is something that I intended to build on the previous Minecraft series, but didn't get around to it because the world destroyed. So with 1.9, this was a priority for me to get out there and get an automated chicken farm going. So the premise here, and this is a build that has no modifications by me. This was 100% basically copied from a tutorial, which I'll put in the link below if you want to build it as well yourself. Basically, you have chickens at the top. When they grow up and they're adult chickens, they will lay eggs. Those eggs will go down into this dispenser, which, when there's something in it, it will fire it out. So basically, it will launch the egg. The baby chicken will hatch on this half slab. When they grow up, they will now be tall enough that they are affected by whatever's in this block here. So if you want to get raw chicken, you can have water and they drown. Or if you want to have cooked chicken, you can have lava. And when they grow up, they will have their head in lava and they will die from being cooked. And if you kill an animal with fire, they will be cooked meat when they're done. Alternatively, if you didn't want chicken but you wanted eggs, for instance, if you wanted to get more eggs to feed this farm, you can toggle the switch. The eggs that you get from this, or that you get to start, you can load into this hopper, which feeds into the dispenser at the top there, which launches the egg down. So these are your seed chickens, your laying egg chickens. And if you don't want this to be running anymore, for instance, it's unnecessary, you have a full chest, you can turn it off. But we now have sugarcane farm, and we have food farm, chicken farm. And now we need to start figuring out where we can put all the stuff that we're collecting, because by this point, we had a lot of different things going. We had some makeshift chests sort of strewn about, a lot more that were over here, just kind of junk chests. All of it was getting very haphazard. And so what I wanted to do was get a storage system in place to help organize. So I built this. So this is the design that I had basically built previously in my initial home base tour, the first video on this channel. It uses a similar mechanic, but I changed things up. So the main design here is again inspired by another YouTuber, and I'll put a link to that video in the description so you can see how to build it yourself if you'd like. And I'll show you what I did differently. But the way that this works is that you have a chest, you throw items into this chest, they get pulled down, and then they go through the system and get sorted into these different chests based on which blocks are in the chests. So here we will load up on cobblestone, but for instance, in this chest where we have four different types of items, what will happen is if the item is a diorite or a granite or an andesite or gravel, then it will put that item into one of these stacks and it will keep filling it up until there's no room, until they're all at 64 or whatever their stack limit is. If the item can't go into this chest because it isn't one of the items in it, it will try the next one. So it starts at the top, works its way down, goes back up to the top, works its way down, and continues until the very end. So you can have as many different items as you want into a single chest, but if there's no room for it, it will keep moving on. And eventually, if all of these chests are filled with items and it didn't match, we have a sort of junk draw, overflow, temporary storage chest to capture the items that didn't get sorted properly. And sometimes that might mean that you just need to do things like free up some space holding. So here we have a ton of space filled up by arrows because I wanted to fill up this chest, but we don't necessarily need to have that many stacks of arrows. So if we find other items that fit the theme of this chest, we can just move an arrow and free up that space. However, if you don't have items in every point, any item that gets to this point will fill it up. So if we didn't fill this up, I'm using cobblestone to just kind of be the catch-all. If we didn't have that, then what we'd end up getting is a situation where this would just fill up with any random item instead of moving on. And so that is the one little trick to using this system. I happen to really love this system. I think it works great, and it definitely was consistently working between 1.8 and 1.9, so no problems with that. And let me show you kind of how it works. Because we're on water, I wanted to be cautious about putting together a build that had a ton of redstone below the water level, especially at the time when I built this, where we didn't have a ridiculous amount of extra blocks to do things like, build the underwater area, dry it out, make it all nice and safe. I decided that I would build up instead of building down, at least for this particular build. And so, since I didn't want to just kind of exist with a massive sort of flat vertical column before you get to the storage, I decided to make this kind of grandiose entranceway to the storage to kind of go up there. I kind of like the extra levels that it gives this area because everything is kind of built based off of this flat path. So that was part of the reason why I went up like this and took up this much space, but the practical purpose is that from that point to the floor level where we are is where the redstone is. Now I wanted to make the redstone visible and accessible, so I didn't want to sort of very harshly cut people off from getting in, but I did want to wrap it up, kind of give this a finished build feeling as opposed to just a totally exposed open back. And so I decided to go with a combination of falling water and sugarcane to kind of create this pattern, this blue-green pattern that is completely pass through. You can go through either of those elements. You can kind of see into it, but it does give that wall effect. And then to continue that around the sides, I used a combination of blue and green tinted panes to kind of tie it in, but make it a little bit more physically blocking for the sides. And also because it makes it a little bit easier to actually see into the system with the panes than with the reeds or the water. So we get the color combo and we get the practical aspect. Oh no, I like it. So here's how this, well, let's actually do the grand entrance. So the other thing is that I didn't need the full area where the steps are in order to put in the redstone. So kind of built this cool little design around the base area so you can sort of add some color, add some light. Underneath these slabs we have torches, and in some places we have jack-o'-lanterns to help lighten up this area and keep mobs from spawning inside of it. The way that this build works, is that as items come in through that initial chest, which I showed you, we'll go up these stairs I put in. As items go into that initial chest, they get fed through these hoppers into the first of the droppers. There's a comparator that pulls a signal out of that dropper, so as long as there's an item in that dropper, this will become powered. Once this is powered, it sets off a hopper clock. Now the hopper clock has enough items inside of it to ensure that all of the items that enter into that first chest can go up all of these hoppers, go down up all these droppers, down all these hoppers, up all the droppers, down all the hoppers, all the way across for as many different tiers as we want. And so if we need to have more columns, we just add more items to accommodate it. So that's what this hopper clock helps to do. While there are items in it, it triggers off this redstone torch clock key. So this becomes pulsing. And as that pulses, we carry that pulse through this little tower of items, which brings us to this redstone. And each pulse follows this pattern where we have a repeater going into a dropper. We have a torch that's keeping the hoppers active. And so as these items get pulsed with power, the items in the droppers all go up one level. The single item in the hopper goes up one level. All of the, in the droppers, all of the hoppers get freed up to let items drop down by one if there's any items there, and then get locked again with the redstone so they don't go any further. And so the time it takes for the hoppers to go from being locked to unlocked to unlocked, locked to unlocked to locked is enough time for an item to drop, try to go into the chest if it can, if not, to sit there and then drop again. So that pattern follows pretty much throughout this whole thing, with the one little noticeable difference in the cycle, which is when I need to extend the line further, the redstone line, which is currently with this design entirely powered from the right side going left. So when it's time to extend the line, because of the way that I've built this, where there is a column of chests every other, we don't really have much room to play with as far as throwing in a repeater, because we need redstone on basically all of these points. And so to get around that, each level that needs to have an extension just does this little pattern. So redstone comes up, is above the torch, it goes in through this repeater, which goes through this repeater to power this dropper, which is the repeater that would normally be there, and continues on through this repeater through this line. We need to do it that way because otherwise, if we, for instance, have the repeater where it originally is and just redstone here, we end up permanently keeping everything on. So we don't want to do that. So simple little extension. You do this every 6 chests or so for as long as you want. And this is a completely infinitely scalable design. The vertical scalability is kind of controlled with your ability to reach. There are 6 chests right now. You can't really reach any higher than that just by standing still. So you probably don't want to go much higher than that. But all in all, really, really cool build. Really like this design. The original design, I'm not sure if I mentioned this or not, but the original design had 2 chests next to each other and then 3 blocks of space before the next set of 2 chests. And that was actually how I originally started to build this sorting system. And after I basically finished it, I was looking back and just thinking, I just really don't like that design. I don't like the 2 chests followed by 3 blocks of space. I just didn't really care for it. And so I thought I can do something more compact. And I did. And I just kind of came up with this slight modification on the design. The mechanics still the same, just the layout is really what's different. And I think at this point it becomes down to personal preference. All right. Now, as I was building this area, and as I was trying to figure out what kind of pattern and design I wanted to have down here, I realized that as far as lighting goes, really my only options were torches. And so you can see that I did put some torches underneath the water to kind of give some radiant light through these blocks and through the glass panes, but I really wanted to get my pumpkins back. I wanted my jack-o'-lanterns. You know me with my builds, if you've been watching basically any of my other stuff. I love jack-o'-lanterns as a block. And so, one night last week, I was kind of up late and I had this thought. I had this midnight thought that wouldn't it be funny to have a pumpkin farm within a pumpkin? Huh? Like, isn't that just so ridiculous and awesome? And so that's what I did. And so I made a 2-scale 16 by 16 by 16 pumpkin farm. Welcome to the pumpkin farm. It is a pixel perfect recreation of a pumpkin. So you can see how around the eyes we have the 2 different tones. With our 2 different tones, we're using brick and coal. We have jack-o'-lanterns and regular pumpkins to create the dark orange and the slightly less dark orange. And then we use sand and smooth sandstone to represent some of the lighter colors, the lighter orange and the bright white. And then around the stem at the top, we have gold, we have glowstone, and once again the coal. So this is my 2-scale pumpkin. I love this thing. Now, it's not just an absurdly huge pumpkin, it's also an active, really high-producing pumpkin farm. So in here, we have 4 active, automatic pumpkin farms. The way it works is on each side, we have a series of pumpkin plants. The pumpkin plants, when they produce a pumpkin, will be, because of the space, it can only be next to these pistons. The pistons will break it off, shoot it into the water, and go down from the water into these hoppers, into the chest at the end. In fact, there goes one pumpkin now. Yeah, so let me go up a little bit so you can see how this all works. Oops. Let me go up successfully so you can see how this works. Can I pull this off? I got the second one. All right, so you might remember this basic premise from a few minutes ago, but once again, we're doing the whole bud-powered automated piston, except this time we have pumpkins and a 2-sided pumpkin farm approach, as opposed to it just being a single column. So we have the furnace with items in it, we have the sand, we have the comparator, it goes up to the repeater, which goes up and across and bud powers all of our pistons, this time from 2 blocks above as opposed to from 1 block diagonally over. The pistons alternate which side they're going to be pushing out. So if there's a plant here, the piston's going to be pushing out over here. So we just kind of give that a single line of pistons because there's really no reason not to do it that way and save some space. And then vertically, we just recreated this farm 4 times. So we have water underneath just to help hydrate and increase growth. We've got the pistons, we've got the active redstone, and it kind of keeps going. Now with this farm, if I want to turn off any of these, we have a lever here so we can control when These are on and off. So it just permanently enables it. So in this case, what would happen is that if the bud-powered activity goes off, they would stay extended until we flip the switch. Whereas with the previous one, flipping the switch just does extend it. But again, I just like to have on-off switch for all of my automated farms because you never know when you might want to turn it off, and I certainly hate having to break redstone in order to stop something. I learned early on in builds that that was a bad design because there are times where you just do want to turn it off. Now, just to kind of finish the tour of this guy, the one thing that I did that wasn't 100% pixel perfect recreation, I guess technically too. I didn't do it on the floor because the floor was going to be covered by water and the lines, so there was no reason to do it there. But the other thing is I made the top mostly out of glass. So we still have the stem. You'll remember the gold and the glowstone and the brick to recreate that little pattern. But I figured that the glass would be kind of cool. You could actually see into the farm and get a good look at it. And I liked that. I liked the idea of being able to see the build. So I put in the stem, but kept the rest glass. That's the other difference that I made. But that's it. And oh my god, do I just find this thing to be hysterical. I just truly, wholeheartedly, 100% love this. I think this is just absolutely comically just so stupid and so funny. I mean, I just love this. This is, oh my god. So this is one of the ones that I really wish I had either time-lapsed it or done something with the recordings with it, but I didn't feel comfortable yet recording it when I was putting this together and didn't want to risk it. But and this took me about 8 hours to build. I started working on it at around midnight, tried to complete it in one sitting, ended up going to bed at around 6 a.m., got up the next day, did a couple more hours to finish it off, and so this was an 8-hour build that I regret nothing about. I love this thing. It's just so stupid. So yeah, so that I mean, so this is my favorite build clearly so far. Like I love what I did with the sugarcane and the homage to the glass elevator, and I love the modifications I made to the sorting system and the design that I did with the faux walls. But nothing amuses me more than this right now. I think this is just hysterical. And that's the main stuff. Now, a few other things that have happened is that we have found an ocean temple, which I do intend to turn into, as I described it, a sea lantern farm, a sea jack-o'-lantern farm to be precise. This is our wall of things to do. So that we will probably show in a future episode, just kind of further efforts around that. Right now we cleared out the guardians. We started to block off where we would drain water and what we would do with it. So lots of excitement to come with that. And that's the tour. I hope you love what we've put together so far. I know I am so excited about what's going to come in this Season 2 of Escreal Let's Play Minecraft. For those of you who have stuck around and have been watching this channel since the beginning, thank you so much for the support and for coming back for Season 2. For anyone who's new, I recommend you go back and check out what I've done in Season 1. Get a feel for the way I build and the way I think about it. I will try, as I progress through this series, to continue to improve upon my recordings, and my builds, and my techniques. So if you have any questions, constructive criticism, or just general support, or even if you just want to say hello, please add in the comments below. I certainly love getting comments, and I will certainly reply to them. If you've enjoyed this show, and if you would like to see more, please click the subscribe button. I can't wait to see what we do next. In fact, I know what we're going to do next. It's so cool. I am so excited for it. In fact, as soon as I finish recording this episode, I'm going to start on it because it's a super special, secret, awesome surprise, which possibly you will have already seen is out by the time you watch this video. But if you haven't, please check out episode number 2 of season 2 of Escreal Let's Play Minecraft. It's going to be amazing. I can't wait for it. I hope to see you there. But for now, that's it for me. Thanks for watching. Bye.